Emma Cole had attended diplomatic events across half the civilized systems, and she had learned one very reliable lesson. If a room was decorated with floating crystal chandeliers and 6-meter-tall alien statues, something uncomfortable was probably about to happen. Unfortunately, the throne hall of the Aurelian Empire had both. She stood near the edge of the enormous chamber, arms folded behind her back in the polite posture expected of a security consultant, who was technically not part of the royal guard, but still somehow responsible if everything collapsed into chaos. The polished floor reflected the glowing pillars that rose toward a ceiling so high Emma suspected it had its own weather system. "Beautiful place," she murmured to the guard beside her. The tall Aurelian soldier nodded slowly. Like most Aurelians, he looked almost human except for the elegant long ears that curved slightly behind his head. The hall was grown from living crystal 3 centuries ago. Emma blinked. "Grown?" "Yes, of course it was," she said quietly. "Why build something when you can grow a palace like a houseplant?" The guard considered this comment with the serious expression of someone unsure whether a human was making a joke. Emma scanned the crowd instead. Diplomats from dozens of star systems filled the chamber. Metallic-skinned envoys, beings with translucent skin, and several creatures that appeared to be made mostly of tentacles hovered near the banquet tables. At the far end of the hall, elevated above everyone, sat Queen Sora. Even from across the chamber, the queen commanded attention. Her posture was calm, composed, almost impossibly still. The long ears that marked her as Aurelian royalty framed a face that revealed little emotion. A crown of woven silver light rested above her dark hair. Emma had met many leaders in her career, but Queen Sora gave off the quiet energy of someone who could command a fleet with a single sentence. Emma shifted slightly, activating the discreet scanner hidden in the cuff of her sleeve. The device flickered softly as it analyzed the room. Everything appeared normal, which meant Emma trusted it even less. Beside the queen stood the small figure of Princess Lyra, who looked extremely bored. The child swung her legs slightly against the throne platform while listening to a visiting dignitary speak in a voice that sounded like a musical instrument being slowly strangled. Emma leaned slightly toward the guard again. "How old is the princess?" "8 cycles. She already looks like she'd rather be anywhere else." The guard allowed the faintest hint of a smile. "Diplomacy has that effect." Emma was about to respond when something unusual happened. The princess stopped swinging her legs. Lyra's head turned slowly across the chamber. Her eyes scanned the crowd with sudden focus. Emma noticed the change immediately. Years of reading body language had trained her to detect tension before it became violence. The princess stood up. That alone caused several attendants to glance nervously toward the throne. Then Lyra ran, not toward the queen, not toward the guards, toward Emma. At first, Emma assumed the child had simply become restless, but the princess moved with startling urgency. Her small footsteps echoed across the vast chamber as diplomats turned in confusion. Emma barely had time to react before the girl reached her. Then Princess Lyra ducked behind Emma's back and grabbed the fabric of her uniform. Emma froze. The throne hall fell completely silent. Emma slowly turned her head. "Hello," she said carefully. Behind her, the princess peeked around her arm, eyes wide. Emma lowered her voice. "You know I'm not an official hiding place, right?" Lyra ignored the question and pointed across the hall. Emma followed the direction of the child's finger. One of the visiting dignitaries stood near the center of the chamber, Ambassador Valen. Tall, elegant, smiling politely as he spoke with several advisors. He looked perfectly harmless. Emma sighed softly. "Of course," she whispered. Because in Emma's experience, perfectly harmless people were usually the most dangerous ones in the room. Behind her, the princess tightened her grip on Emma's uniform. "He is wrong," Lyra whispered. Emma blinked. "That's a very mysterious sentence." Across the chamber, Queen Sora had risen from the throne. Her expression was not anger. It was shock. The queen stepped forward slowly, studying Emma and the princess with intense focus. Emma raised one hand awkwardly. "Your Majesty," she said, "I promise I didn't kidnap the princess. She appears to have kidnapped me." Several guards shifted nervously. The queen approached, her gaze never leaving the child. "Lyra," Sora said calmly, "why are you hiding?" The princess pressed closer behind Emma. Then she whispered something so quietly that only Emma heard it. "He will hurt you." Emma felt a small chill run down her spine. She glanced again at Ambassador Velan. He was still smiling, still calm, still harmless. Emma sighed again. "Well," she muttered quietly, "there goes my peaceful evening." The silence inside the throne hall did not disappear immediately. It lingered like a strange invisible fog, spreading slowly across the polished floor, while hundreds of diplomats tried to understand why the heir to an interstellar empire was hiding behind a human security consultant. Emma Cole remained very still. She had learned long ago that sudden movements during awkward political moments tended to make things worse, sometimes catastrophically worse. Behind her, Princess Lyra held onto the back of Emma's uniform with surprising determination. Emma cleared her throat quietly. "Your Majesty," she said carefully, "this is not normally how my work contracts begin." Queen Sora stepped closer, her long ears slightly tilted as she studied the scene with quiet intensity. The Queen's expression remained composed, but there was no mistaking the confusion in her eyes. "Lyra," the Queen said calmly, "step forward." The princess did not move. Instead, she leaned further behind Emma. Emma sighed softly. "I would just like to clarify something," Emma said politely. "If I suddenly became responsible for protecting the princess without paperwork, I should probably renegotiate my salary." A few diplomats coughed awkwardly. One of the palace guards made a visible effort not to laugh. Queen Sora did not smile, but her gaze briefly softened before returning to her daughter. "Lyra," she repeated gently. The princess slowly stepped out from behind Emma, though she remained very close, as if Emma were some kind of portable shield. Her small hand still held onto the sleeve of Emma's uniform. Emma glanced down. "Comfortable spot back there?" she asked quietly. Lyra nodded once. Emma considered this. "Good. I aim to provide high-quality hiding services." The Queen knelt slightly in front of her daughter, lowering her voice so the nearest diplomats could not hear clearly. "Why did you run?" Lyra pointed again across the chamber. Emma followed the gesture once more. Ambassador Valen had noticed the attention by now. He stood among several delegates, watching the strange scene unfold with polite curiosity. His posture remained relaxed, his expression warm and diplomatic. Emma tilted her head slightly. Perfectly calm, perfectly friendly. Emma did not trust him at all. "He is wrong," Lyra whispered again. Queen Sora's gaze flickered briefly toward the ambassador before returning to her daughter. "What do you mean?" Lyra hesitated. Her eyes shifted toward Emma. The princess leaned closer and spoke quietly. "He is smiling, but his future is dark." Emma blinked slowly. "Ah," she muttered under her breath. "One of those days." The Queen stood slowly, her expression now thoughtful rather than surprised. Around them, palace guards were pretending not to observe the situation, while very obviously observing it. Emma folded her arms behind her back again. "Well," she said quietly, "I suppose that depends on how literal we're being." Queen Sora turned toward her. "You believe her?" Emma shrugged slightly. "I believe children are usually honest about what scares them. Adults tend to be the ones who lie professionally." The Queen studied Emma for several seconds. "Walk with me," Sora said calmly. Emma nodded. "Of course." The Queen gestured subtly to several guards. The diplomatic event continued behind them as musicians resumed playing soft alien instruments that sounded like glass being gently tapped. Emma walked beside the Queen through one of the side corridors of the palace. The walls were alive with flowing light patterns that reacted to their movement. Emma glanced at the glowing walls. "Your palace is very dramatic," she said. "It was designed to inspire respect." "It definitely inspires something." Behind them, Princess Lyra quietly followed Emma instead of the Queen. Emma noticed. "You know," Emma said gently, "most children usually stay closer to their mother." Lyra looked up at her. "You are safer." Emma exhaled slowly. "That is a lot of pressure for someone who just wanted free food at a diplomatic banquet." Queen Sora stopped walking. She turned toward Emma with a thoughtful expression. "My daughter has been experiencing unusual perceptions recently." Emma raised one eyebrow. "Unusual how?" "Sometimes she reacts to events before they occur." Emma stared at the Queen. Like guessing the future, the Queen nodded once. Emma rubbed her forehead. Of course, she muttered. Does this surprise you? Emma looked at the glowing corridor, the alien architecture, and the floating lights drifting through the air. I'm a human standing inside a palace grown from living crystal on another planet while discussing future predictions with an alien queen. She paused. Honestly, this week has been fairly normal so far. For the first time, Queen Sora allowed a faint smile. Behind Emma, the princess tugged gently on her sleeve again. Emma looked down. Yes? Lyra pointed toward one of the corridor windows that overlooked the city. Far below, the massive capital of the Aurelian Empire stretched across the landscape, filled with flying vehicles and glowing towers. Then the princess whispered something quietly. He will try tonight. Emma's humor vanished. She slowly turned back toward the queen. Well, Emma said calmly, that definitely complicates dinner plans. Emma stood quietly beside the tall window while the city of Aurelia Prime glowed far below them, like a sea of floating stars. Thousands of aerial transports moved through the sky lanes in perfect organized patterns, guided by invisible traffic systems that humans would probably turn into chaos within 15 minutes. She folded her arms. Tonight, Emma repeated slowly. Princess Lyra nodded. Emma looked at the queen. Well, she said, that narrows the timeline slightly. Queen Sora's calm expression returned, though her eyes had become sharp with focus. Lyra, she said gently, did you see what he will do? The princess frowned in concentration, as if trying to remember a dream. I saw noise, she said. Emma tilted her head. Noise is usually involved in assassination attempts. I saw lights, Lyra continued. Emma nodded thoughtfully. Also very common. The princess hesitated. And you fell. The silence that followed was much heavier. Emma slowly turned toward the queen. Right, Emma said. That part I don't like. Queen Sora studied her daughter carefully. Did you see who caused it? Lyra shook her head. It was blurry. Emma rubbed her chin. That's the problem with future visions, she muttered. They really should include clearer subtitles. The queen walked slowly across the corridor while thinking. Ambassador Valen has been negotiating trade agreements with the outer colonies for months. His reputation is stable. No record of violence. Emma gave a small shrug. In my experience, the most dangerous people usually have excellent reputations. Sora stopped near one of the glowing wall panels. With a quiet gesture, she activated the palace security interface. A three-dimensional projection of the entire palace appeared in the air between them, rotating slowly. Hundreds of small lights marked security patrols. Emma leaned closer. Nice system, she admitted. Our defenses are among the most advanced in the sector. Emma nodded slowly. That makes me nervous. The queen looked at her. Why? Emma pointed at the projection. Because advanced systems make people comfortable. She tapped one glowing section of the palace map. Comfortable people stop checking the boring details. Princess Lyra stepped closer to the floating projection, fascinated by the tiny moving lights. Emma glanced at her. You ever play hide and seek? The princess nodded enthusiastically. Emma pointed at the map again. This building is very big. If someone wanted to hide something dangerous inside it, they'd have a lot of places to choose from. Queen Sora crossed her arms. What would you do? Emma smiled slightly. I would pretend everything is normal. The queen waited. Emma continued. I would attend the banquet. I would smile. I would talk about trade agreements and peaceful cooperation. She tapped the projection again. Meanwhile, I'd already have people sneaking around the building looking for whatever unpleasant surprise is waiting. The queen studied Emma. You believe the attack will occur during the banquet? Emma shrugged. If I were an assassin trying to remove a queen surrounded by diplomats, that's exactly when I'd do it. Princess Lyra tugged on Emma's sleeve again. Emma looked down. Yes? The girl pointed at one specific section of the palace projection, a quiet balcony overlooking the throne hall. Emma squinted. You saw that? Lyra nodded. There was light. Emma looked at the queen. Well, she said, now we have a location. Queen Sora gestured to the palace security network. The projection zoomed in on the balcony area. Several guards were already stationed nearby. Emma tilted her head. That's interesting. What? The princess didn't point at the throne room. Emma tapped the balcony again. She pointed at the place where someone would watch the throne room. The queen's expression hardened. A sniper. Emma nodded slowly. Possibly. Princess Lyra looked up at Emma. He is smiling. Emma sighed. Still smiling? The princess nodded. Emma folded her arms again. I really dislike people who smile too much. The queen turned toward the corridor entrance where 2 royal guards were waiting. Quietly increase surveillance around the western balcony, she ordered. Do not alert the guests. The guards bowed and left immediately. Emma watched them go. Good choice, she said. Queen Sora looked at her. You seem very calm about this. Emma gave a small smile. That's because I haven't had dinner yet. The queen raised an eyebrow. Emma shrugged. I solve problems better when I'm not hungry. Princess Lyra giggled. The tension in the corridor softened slightly. Emma knelt down so she was eye level with the princess. All right, Emma said quietly. I need to ask you something important. Lyra listened carefully. When you saw the future, Emma pointed to the projection again. Did you see me there? The princess thought for several seconds. Then she nodded. Emma exhaled. Well, she said slowly, that means I probably don't die immediately. Queen Sora stared at her. That is your conclusion. Emma stood up again. It's called optimism. The queen studied Emma's calm expression for a long moment. You speak lightly about danger. Emma gave a small shrug. If I panic every time someone tries to kill royalty, I'd never get any work done. Princess Lyra suddenly grabbed Emma's hand. Emma looked down. What is it? The girl spoke very quietly. He is closer now. Emma slowly lifted her head. Across the corridor, a palace servant was walking toward them, carrying a tray of ceremonial glasses. Emma watched him approach. Her scanner cuff flickered softly. Then Emma smiled. Your Majesty, she said calmly, I think the evening entertainment has started. Emma did not move immediately. She simply watched the palace servant walking toward them, with the steady patience of someone who had learned that rushing often scared the truth away. The man moved normally. His uniform was correct. His pace was calm. The silver tray in his hands carried several crystal glasses that shimmered softly in the corridor light. Everything about him appeared perfectly ordinary. Emma sighed quietly. Of course, she murmured. Queen Sora noticed the shift in Emma's posture. What is it? Emma tilted her head slightly toward the approaching servant. That man, the queen looked. He is one of the palace attendants. Maybe, Emma replied. Princess Lyra tightened her grip on Emma's hand. He is wrong, the child whispered. Emma nodded slowly. Yeah, Emma said softly. I'm starting to get that feeling too. The servant stopped a respectful distance away and bowed slightly. Refreshments for the queen, he said politely. His voice was steady, calm, professional. Emma stepped slightly in front of Queen Sora. Thank you, Emma said, but I'm afraid we're not thirsty. The servant blinked once. My instructions were to deliver these immediately. Emma leaned slightly closer to the tray. Her cuff scanner pulsed faintly. The readings appeared on the inside of her sleeve. Emma's eyebrow lifted. Well, she said quietly, that's interesting. Queen Sora's voice lowered. What do you see? Emma did not answer immediately. Instead, she reached forward and gently lifted one of the crystal glasses from the tray. The liquid inside glowed faintly blue. Emma swirled it. Pretty, she said. Then she casually tossed the glass down the corridor. The crystal shattered. The glowing liquid hit the floor. The polished surface of the corridor immediately began to hiss and dissolve. A large smoking hole spread across the metal floor. The servant's polite smile disappeared. Emma sighed. Yeah, she said. Definitely not wine. The man dropped the tray. The crystal glasses shattered across the corridor. In one smooth motion, he pulled a small metallic device from inside his sleeve. Emma was faster. She grabbed his wrist and twisted sharply. The device clattered across the floor. The man gasped as Emma pinned his arm behind his back. Your Majesty, Emma said calmly, this one definitely didn't come here to serve drinks. Queen Sora stepped forward, her expression now cold and controlled. Who sent you? The servant did not answer. Emma tightened her grip slightly. "Let me guess," Emma said. "You're one of those people who believe silence is mysterious and intimidating." The man tried to pull away. Emma didn't allow it. She gently tapped a pressure point on his wrist. The man immediately dropped to one knee. "I prefer cooperation," Emma added. Princess Lyra peeked from behind Emma again. The girl stared at the attacker with wide eyes. "That is not him," she said. Emma glanced down. "Not him?" Lyra shook her head. "The smiling man is different." Emma slowly looked at Queen Sora. "Well," Emma said, "that's comforting." "How?" "This means we've only caught the warm-up act." The Queen pressed a control on the wall panel. Within seconds, several palace guards rushed into the corridor. They surrounded the captured attacker. Emma released the man and stepped back. The guards secured him quickly with energy restraints. One of the officers looked down at the smoking hole in the floor. "What happened here?" Emma gestured toward the destroyed section. "Experimental cleaning solution." Princess Lyra giggled. The tension in the corridor eased slightly. Queen Sora looked at Emma. "You reacted very quickly." Emma shrugged. "I've been poisoned before. It makes you cautious about glowing drinks." The Queen raised an eyebrow. "More than once?" Emma thought for a moment. "3 times, she said. The guards dragged the captured attacker away. The corridor became quiet again. Queen Sora turned to Emma. "You believe this is connected to Ambassador Valen?" Emma nodded slowly. "Almost certainly." "Then why send this man first?" Emma crossed her arms. "Testing." The Queen waited. Emma gestured toward the corridor. "If someone is planning something big tonight, they'd want to see how the palace reacts." She smiled faintly. "And now they know." Princess Lyra tugged Emma's sleeve again. Emma looked down. "Yes?" The princess whispered quietly. "The smiling man is watching." Emma felt a chill. "Watching from where?" The girl pointed upward. Emma slowly lifted her head. Far above them, at the end of the corridor, a large observation window overlooked the throne hall. And behind the glass, a tall figure stood in the shadows. Even at a distance, Emma could recognize the elegant silhouette. Ambassador Valen. He was looking directly at them, and he was still smiling. Emma exhaled slowly. "Well," she muttered. Queen Sora followed her gaze. The Queen's eyes narrowed. Emma straightened her jacket. "Your Majesty," she said calmly. "Yes?" Emma pointed toward the window. "I think the real performance is about to begin." Emma kept her eyes on the tall window for several seconds after speaking. Ambassador Valen had already stepped away from the glass, disappearing back into the upper corridor as if the entire moment had been nothing more than casual curiosity. Emma sighed. "I really dislike dramatic villains," she muttered. Queen Sora turned slightly toward the guards. "Seal the upper observation corridors. Quietly." The guards immediately began transmitting orders through their communication bands. Emma stretched her shoulders and looked down at the slowly dissolving hole in the corridor floor again. "Well," she said, "at least we know the refreshments are dangerous tonight." Princess Lyra stepped closer to the edge of the damaged floor and leaned forward to observe the smoking metal. Emma gently pulled her back. "Let's not test whether the acid works on shoes too." Lyra looked up at her. "You are not afraid." Emma shrugged. "I'm afraid of paperwork. Assassins are easier." The princess tilted her head. "What is paperwork?" Emma stared at her. "You truly live in a royal palace." The Queen's voice interrupted calmly. "Ambassador Valen would not act alone." Emma nodded. "Definitely not." She began walking slowly down the corridor, studying the architecture as if she were admiring the decorations. In reality, her scanner cuff had activated again, sending faint pulses into the surrounding walls. Queen Sora walked beside her. "What are you looking for?" Emma tapped the wall panel beside her. "Patterns." "Patterns?" Emma nodded. "Professional assassins rarely rely on just one method." She pointed toward the balcony Princess Lyra had identified earlier. "One attacker in the corridor." Emma raised another finger. "One sniper position." She raised a third finger. "And something else." The Queen looked at her. "You are certain?" Emma shrugged slightly. "I've met people who plan these kinds of operations. They are usually very proud of their creativity." Princess Lyra walked quietly between them, holding Emma's hand again. He is still smiling, the princess said. Emma sighed. Of course he is. The corridor curved toward a small security chamber overlooking the throne hall. Through the wide viewing panel, they could see the diplomatic gathering continuing below. Music filled the enormous hall again. Servants moved between tables. Diplomats spoke politely as if nothing unusual had happened. Ambassador Valen stood among them, still smiling. Emma leaned closer to the window. That man has excellent emotional discipline, she said. Queen Sora crossed her arms. Or he knows we cannot act without proof. Emma smiled faintly. Oh, we already have proof. The Queen looked at her. Emma pointed to the captured attacker being escorted through the lower level of the hall by palace guards. That man will talk. Eventually. Emma shook her head. No, very soon. The Queen raised an eyebrow. Emma continued. Professional assassins are brave when they think their plan is still working. She tapped the glass window lightly. But the moment they realize everything has collapsed, Emma shrugged. They start negotiating. Princess Lyra suddenly stopped walking. Emma noticed immediately. What is it? The princess frowned. I hear something. Emma glanced around. I don't hear anything. Lyra shook her head. Not with ears. Emma crouched slightly so they were eye level. What do you feel? The girl looked toward the ceiling. A vibration. Emma's scanner cuff flickered. Her eyes narrowed. Oh! Queen Sora noticed the change instantly. What? Emma looked up. Your Majesty, do you have maintenance tunnels above the throne hall? Yes. Emma nodded slowly. That's what I thought. Princess Lyra squeezed her hand. What is happening? Emma stood up. Well, Emma said calmly, if I were planning an assassination while everyone was distracted by a fake poison attempt, she pointed upward, I'd probably put something unpleasant directly above the room where the Queen is standing. Queen Sora's voice became sharp. A bomb. Emma nodded. Most likely. The Queen immediately activated her communicator. Evacuate the throne hall immediately. Emma gently raised a hand. Wait! The Queen looked at her. Emma nodded toward the hall below. Look carefully. Queen Sora studied the scene again. Ambassador Valen had not moved. He was still talking politely with several diplomats. If there was a bomb above the hall, he would not be standing there. Emma smiled slightly. That's the strange part. Queen Sora's eyes narrowed. Explain. Emma tapped the glass again. If the goal was to kill you, the explosion would happen while you're standing in the throne room. She gestured toward the balcony above the hall. But Valen moved upstairs earlier. The Queen understood immediately. The balcony? Emma nodded. He wants you to move. Princess Lyra whispered quietly. He is calling you there. Emma exhaled slowly. Well, she said. Queen Sora looked at her. Yes? Emma cracked her knuckles. Good news. What? Emma pointed toward the upper balcony. That's exactly where we're going. Emma moved first, not quickly, not dramatically, but with the steady confidence of someone who had decided exactly how the next few minutes were going to unfold. Queen Sora walked beside her, calm but alert, while Princess Lyra held Emma's hand and kept glancing upward toward the levels above the throne hall. The palace corridor lights shifted as they passed, responding softly to their movement. Guards followed several steps behind them, careful not to create the appearance of a military response that might alarm the diplomats below. Emma glanced sideways at the Queen. You handle assassination attempts very calmly, Sora answered without slowing her pace. It is not the first. Emma nodded thoughtfully. Good. I would hate to ruin your evening routine. Lyra looked up at Emma. Do humans joke when they are in danger? Emma smiled slightly. All the time. Why? Emma thought about that. Because if you laugh at the situation first, it doesn't get the chance to laugh at you. The princess considered this very seriously, as if storing it somewhere important. They reached a circular lift platform that rose silently through the inner structure of the palace. The transparent walls revealed layers of architecture passing around them, floating corridors, suspended gardens, and glowing transport lines. Emma leaned casually against the rail. Very impressive building, she said. Queen Sora folded her hands behind her back. It was built to last thousands of years. Emma tilted her head. Well, let's try not to blow it up tonight. The lift reached the upper level and opened into a long observation gallery that curved around the throne hall. From here, the entire diplomatic event was visible below, like a glowing ocean of movement. Ambassador Valen stood near the far end of the balcony, still smiling. Emma sighed quietly. There it is again. The Queen spoke calmly. The smile? Emma nodded. Yes, I am beginning to take that personally. Valen slowly turned as they approached. My queen, he said smoothly, I did not expect you to leave the banquet so soon. His voice carried easily through the quiet gallery. Emma stepped slightly in front of the queen. Funny thing about banquets, Emma said. Sometimes the refreshments try to dissolve the guests. Valen's smile widened slightly. Ah, you discovered my unfortunate employee. Emma raised an eyebrow. You say that like you lost a luggage bag. He was disposable. Emma nodded slowly. Charming management style. Princess Lyra squeezed Emma's hand again. He is wrong, she whispered. Emma glanced down. Yes, Emma said quietly. He definitely is. Queen Sora stepped forward. Your plan has failed, Ambassador. Valan spread his hands politely. Failed? Emma leaned casually against the balcony rail and looked up toward the ceiling. You might want to check the maintenance tunnels, she said. Valen's eyes flickered slightly. Emma smiled. There it is. The smile faltered for the first time. Emma straightened. You thought we'd rush into the throne hall to protect the queen and trigger the real attack upstairs. She gestured around the gallery. Which is why you were waiting here. Valan's expression slowly changed from polite diplomacy to something colder. You are more observant than expected. Emma shrugged. I used to play strategy games with my brother. You'd be surprised how useful that is. The ambassador reached slowly inside his coat. The guards behind Emma immediately raised their weapons. Emma lifted one hand. Relax. Everyone paused. Emma looked directly at Valen. If you were holding a weapon, you would have used it already. Valen's hand stopped. Emma nodded. Exactly. He slowly removed a small metallic device instead. It blinked softly with pulsing lights. Queen Sora's voice became sharp. What is that? Valen smiled again, though this time it looked much more unpleasant. A contingency. Emma squinted. Let me guess. Remote detonator. Very good. Emma looked up toward the ceiling again. Bombs still in the tunnels? Yes. Emma sighed. Of course. Princess Lyra tugged her sleeve. He is lying. Emma blinked. Really? The girl nodded. It is already active. Emma's eyes widened slightly. Well, she said. Queen Sora turned sharply toward her. Explain. Emma pointed at the device in Valen's hand. That's not a detonator. The ambassador frowned slightly. Emma folded her arms. That's a transmitter. Silence spread through the balcony. Emma looked toward the ceiling again. If the bomb was already armed, she glanced toward the enormous throne hall below. Then the countdown probably started a few minutes ago. Queen Sora's eyes widened. How long? Emma checked her scanner cuff. Numbers flashed across the small display. Emma exhaled slowly. Well, she said. Valan finally stopped smiling. Emma looked back at him. Good news, she added. The ambassador stared at her. What good news? Emma gave a small grin. You're about to learn something very important about human security consultants. Princess Lyra looked up at her. What? Emma pointed toward the ceiling. I already turned it off. Ambassador Valen stared at Emma as if she had just informed him gravity had been canceled. The device in his hand blinked uselessly, its faint signal pulsing toward nothing. You are lying, he said quietly. Emma leaned one elbow on the balcony rail and looked down at the throne hall below, where diplomats continued their conversations without the slightest idea that a political catastrophe had nearly occurred above their heads. I appreciate the confidence, Emma replied. Queen Sora's eyes moved between the two of them. You disabled the device? Emma shrugged. Technically, I disabled the bomb. Valen's calm mask cracked for the first time. Impossible. Emma pointed lazily toward the ceiling. Your maintenance tunnels use a wireless service grid. Convenient system. Unfortunately for you, it also means your bomb was broadcasting. She tapped her cuff scanner. I noticed the signal earlier. Princess Lyra looked up at her with bright curiosity. When? Emma smiled slightly. While you were telling me about vibrations. The ambassador clenched his jaw. You could not have reached the bomb in time. Emma nodded. You're right. For a moment, Valen's confidence returned. Then Emma added, but the palace drones could. Queen Sora blinked. Drones? Emma nodded. Maintenance drones. Small ones. Quiet ones. She glanced toward the ceiling again. I redirected 2 of them through the service grid. Valen's voice became tight. You are bluffing. Emma tapped her cuff again. A small projection appeared in the air between them. It showed a maintenance tunnel above the throne hall. A metallic device sat against the tunnel wall. 2 tiny drones hovered beside it. One drone held a piece of wiring that had clearly been removed. The ambassador's face went pale. Emma smiled politely. Turns out bombs stop working when you unplug them. Princess Lyra giggled. The sound echoed lightly through the balcony. Queen Sora slowly exhaled, tension finally leaving her posture. Valen's hand tightened around his useless transmitter. You think this changes anything? He asked quietly. Emma tilted her head. Well, yes. The ambassador suddenly moved. His arms snapped upward as he hurled the transmitter toward the balcony floor. The device shattered. A sharp burst of blinding light exploded across the gallery. Several guards shouted. Emma groaned. Oh, come on! By the time the light faded, Valen was already running toward the far corridor. Emma straightened. Seriously? Queen Sora stepped forward. Stop him! Emma raised a hand. Relax! The Queen looked at her. He is escaping. Emma pointed calmly down the corridor. 3 palace guards were already standing there. Valen stopped abruptly. Energy restraints flashed around his wrists as the guards seized him. Emma watched the scene for a moment. Villains always try the dramatic escape, she said. Princess Lyra tilted her head. Do they ever succeed? Emma thought about it. Occasionally. The guards dragged the struggling ambassador back toward them. Queen Sora's gaze was cold now. You attempted to murder a queen under the protection of diplomatic law? Valen said nothing. Emma folded her arms. You also tried to dissolve us with poisoned drinks and explode the palace. She paused. That's very rude behavior at a dinner party. The ambassador glared at her. You are only human. Emma smiled slightly. Exactly. The guards escorted him away. Silence slowly returned to the balcony. Below them, music continued to play in the throne hall as if the universe had decided to pretend nothing dramatic had happened. Queen Sora turned toward Emma. You saved my life. Emma shrugged. I prefer the term professional inconvenience management. The Queen studied her for a long moment. My daughter trusted you immediately. Emma looked down at Princess Lyra. The girl was watching her with quiet certainty. Emma sighed. Children have terrible instincts sometimes. Lyra shook her head. The future is quieter now. Emma blinked. Quieter? The princess nodded. It changed. Queen Sora looked between them. You believe her gift chose you? Emma laughed softly. I'm just a consultant. The Queen stepped closer. No. Emma raised an eyebrow. No? Sora's voice was calm but certain. My daughter ran through an entire throne hall filled with guards, diplomats, and soldiers, and hid behind you. Emma glanced down at the princess again. Lyra smiled. Emma rubbed the back of her neck. That was definitely unexpected. Queen Sora continued quietly. The future she sees is guiding her. Emma leaned on the balcony rail again and looked down at the glowing capital city far below. Flying transports drifted through the sky like slow-moving stars. I was supposed to leave tomorrow, Emma said. The Queen waited. Emma sighed again. I had a quiet contract lined up on a mining colony. Princess Lyra tugged her sleeve. Emma looked down. Yes? You will stay. Emma opened her mouth to answer. Then she paused. The palace lights shimmered across the distant city. The throne hall below was still full of diplomats, who had no idea how close they had come to disaster. Emma slowly looked back at Queen Sora. You know, she said. Yes? Emma smiled slightly. I'm starting to think my quiet life might be overrated. The Queen said nothing, but a faint smile appeared on her face. Princess Lyra squeezed Emma's hand. Emma looked down at her. All right, Emma said. The princess waited. Emma nodded once. Let's see what the future looks like.